Hey everybody! It's been a really long time since I've done a story time because honestly, like nothing that interesting has happened. I've mostly been working and like going on trips and stuff, and I've suspected for some time that there may be something wrong with me. A couple of users on this channel commented that it seems like disproportionately, it seems like I have a lot of like really crazy stories and really random stuff that happened to me. And I know in part that's because the kind of person I am, I like to try new experiences, I like to go to new places, blah 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 blah. But I think it's more than that. I feel like genuinely I am a magnet for just like really interesting events and people. Like, and that's not necessarily a good thing, because like some of my other stories I would tell them and people would be like, oh, it's because like you went there or you did this or you met that person. I'm like, yeah, fair enough, maybe the series of events leading up to this was my fault and this is why this happened, but this time I swear to God I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything at all. Man, I was like, it's really nice to graduate from making like dating content, but we're back, we're doing it again, we're back to square one. Okay, so the story starts off in my neighborhood. Where I live is like, it's in the city, but it's like a kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a little area where it's just where people live. It's quite small, and the community, like I swear to God, everyone around me are in their 80s, 90s, and 100s. Like I've brought the mean age range down to like the 50s. Like I swear to God, everyone around here is really really old, and I kind of like that because they genuinely leave me alone, and it's very quiet and just overall very friendly. And like sometimes the neighbor next to me, like I think she's literally in her late 90s or early 100s, so sometimes I help her take out her trash and me and the neighbor say hello to each other, and that's about it really. Everyone genuinely seems really really nice to me, and they always tell me to do my best at work, and because work for them is just like a mere memory, like the whisper of a memory, so I think that they appreciate that they see me going to work and working hard, and generally like the vibes are really good here. And I'm very grateful because like when you move to a new area, like anywhere, and particularly in Japan, there are times when like one of your neighbors won't like that a foreigner has moved in, and then sometimes they'll make complaints at you. I have a friend that this is happening to now, where she just moved into a new place and her neighbor constantly makes noise complaints about her despite her not making any noise or even not being in her apartment at that time. And then eventually the neighbor that was making the complaint just said like, I don't like English voices. So yeah, that's something you gotta watch out for. But for me personally, my neighborhood's great, everyone's wonderful, so very lucky. And one of my neighbors, she lives over there. She lives in a really big and nice house, and when I originally moved here, I went to check the trash area, and it's right in front of her house. So I turned around and she was looking at me through the window, and she waved, and I waved back, and she looked like a very genki woman. I think she's around 85, 86, I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, she was really genki, really nice, and I just waved at her, and then that was that. But she was really interested in the fact that I guess a foreigner moved into the community. So one day when I was at work, my ex mailed me and said that the neighbor invited him over to her house, and he was just at her house like chilling, and she was making him food, which was wild to me. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, okay, so I ran back and I went to her place, and yeah, she opened the door and she immediately hugged me, which is wild because like Japanese people are, you know, by and large not considered huggers. I think they're very much like British people, like for strangers. So this is like kind of like shocking for me. So she hugged me, she asked me to go in her house, and she made dinner, we drank a whole bunch of alcohol. It was great, it was a wonderful time. So yeah, this past year I have been going around her house like once a month sometimes, and I'll just eat dinner with her and share in like the neighborhood gossip or whatever. Sometimes I go with my ex, sometimes I go by myself. I always bring her like omiyage because she's like a hikikomori, which means she doesn't go outside. I'm not sure why exactly, maybe just because she's older. She's still like very lively, but I don't know, I feel like she just doesn't go outside, so like I bring her stuff that maybe she wouldn't find just by ordering from the catalogs that she orders from. So yeah, it's been kind of fun. I actually did spend some time at New Year's with her last time, and she made me like toshikoshi soba and ozoni and like traditional Japanese New Year's foods, and it was chill. We watched like the New Year's programs on TV. It's really nice, particularly because I don't really have that much family, and I definitely don't have family in Japan, so it's kind of like wholesome. And you can tell she's kind of like, she has a daughter and grandkids, but I guess like she doesn't get to see them that often because people are busy. So it's just kind of nice, like hanging out with people in a kind of familiar way. She doesn't speak English, but she's traveled a lot, so she's like not scared of foreigners. And even if I say something and maybe my pronunciation's a little bit off, she never get like confused. You can only figure out what I'm trying to say if we like have more deeper conversations. We've never really had any communication of issues or anything like that, and for someone who's older, that's quite amazing. So anyways, love this woman, incredible, great. And she asked me to call her grandma in Japanese, so I call her like Baba. So it's really nice. And then the incident happened. When me and my ex split up, he obviously moved out, and then he moved when I was at work, and so the moving truck, I guess, parked in front of her house. So she opened the curtains and she saw my ex getting in the moving truck with a bunch of stuff and leaving. So she kind of was like, oh, okay, I get what's happened. So yeah, a couple of weeks later, a week later, when I had some time, after my trip, I brought her over some nihonshu, so a little souvenir when I went to Niigata. And I know because she loves alcohol, so I knew she'd love it. So I took it over to her, and then she asked me, oh, you know, I don't want to pry, but I saw that, you know, your boyfriend left in like a moving truck. I was like, yeah, you know, we broke up, it's fine, we're still friends, but just letting you know that like I'm single now, living by myself, so yeah, and maybe it means we can hang out even more. So she was happy about that, and she said okay. And I was running to work, so I was like, I don't really have time to talk over the specifics now. And she said, okay, come over to my place Saturday night after your work finishes, I will cook you dinner and we can like slowly talk about it. I'm like, okay, that sounds good actually, because like I was still at that point where I just like, I want to talk about it with someone, and I know like Yumechi is sick of me talking about this, and sometimes for me it helps to talk about things in Japanese, because like I don't like, when you speak in your non-native language or your second or third languages, you'll notice that your personality changes a little bit, and your thoughts and feelings are sometimes processed differently. I know that this is just me, so sometimes talking about things in Japanese also helps to like, for me, talking is very effective, and that's why YouTube's good for me, because it helps me process things and like sort my thoughts. So yeah, I thought it would be good to speak to her about this in Japanese. So yeah, I agreed to meet up with her at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock after my work. And you know, it was like a little old lady asking and saying she's gonna make you dinner. Like there's nothing weird can happen there, right? That's what I thought. Like I thought I'm doing the most like safe, normal, community-driven thing I can do, but here we are. So yeah, I get home, get changed, I get a little bit more, I get another souvenir for her, and I take it over because she just lives over there. And I get to her house, knock on the door, she's like, oh, I made oden. I'm like, okay, I quite like oden, so that's nice. I come in, and as we're about to step in the living room, she's like, just letting you know, I invited someone. I'm like, immediately my blood runs cold, because I don't like being put in like really sudden situations. I'm actually kind of like a control freak like this. I like to always have control over the situation and know like who's gonna be there, and if there's like changes and things, I like to know in advance. I don't know if it's like my neurodivergency that's like this, but I started to like freak out. And then she's like, oh, it's our other neighbor, is this guy who lives kind of like opposite both of us. I'm like, oh dear God. And I start freaking out, and I was like, maybe I should just like make my excuses and leave. Like I don't think I'm ready for this right now. And like I just told her, for me it was like a few months, but I told her that I just broke up with my ex just because like I don't want to like go into like details or whatever. So yeah, so as far as she knew, I just broke up with this guy, and she's introducing new men into the picture. But not gonna lie, I was hungry and I really wanted to eat oden, so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. He wants to hear the story. He's heard it, don't worry. So anyway, so I walk into the dining room, I sit down, and it looks like Christmas, with like everyone having like a little place setting, and there was already food out. Like, she put a lot of effort into this, which I think was really, really sweet. And I sit down and I met this guy. I'm gonna give him a fake name. We're gonna call him Takeru. Okay, so I met Takeru, and I immediately could tell looking at him, he was probably between 45 and 50. He looked kind of normal. By Japanese standards, he would be quite conventionally attractive, quite masculine, but had a very like medium to slim build. I think he's probably around like just under 6 foot. And he was wearing like, I don't know how to explain it, but like sportswear and like Nike sliders. And I don't know how to explain it, but there's a look that men have that is like chinpira, which is kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, like low level gangster or whatever. So basically he dressed like that. He had like the little chain and everything, which is basically like, if you're British, I guess it would be kind of like a chav. Maybe, I don't know. So it was like kind of like that. So already like I got the vibes that this guy's like maybe like not on the right side of the law. But anyway, so I sat down, introduced myself, he introduced himself, we started eating. I didn't want to judge him right off the bat, but the guy was giving like chimpira, so I was already like, not really, I don't know, something's off about this. And we were talking about something, and then he mentioned he used to be a bosuzoku, and a bosuzoku is like a bicycle gang member, so already it's like not looking good, like honestly. And he still has his like motorcycle, so I'm sure he does those activities. I think that like motorcycles are cool. But also like those bosuzoku gangs, and they're often kind of like annoyances. They're always running from the police, they're getting into fights. And I used to live near somewhere with a lot of them, and it was just kind of annoying. Like, they're making like a whole bunch of noise like early into the morning. So yeah, I just, you know, I wasn't really feeling this guy. And then I knew I'd be stuck at her house for like 3 hours talking to the guy, so it was just really freaking awkward. The guy, he was nice, but like again, like he didn't have any conversation at all. Like, the only things he kept saying was like that I was really cute and that my Japanese was good and blah blah blah, and like talking about like specific features of mine, like my eyes being big and stuff like that. It was very like, I don't know, it just made me feel really uncomfortable. But I tried to be nice and like engage him in conversation, but it was like, oh, what do you do for a living? And he said, honestly, I didn't really understand the answer. He was like, I work in like an office and people come and ask me for help and I help them. I'm like, okay, so that's either like a nandemoya, like a handyman, or that's some gangster shit. So I'm like, okay, you know what, I don't want to know, because he was like being deliberately vague. And then I asked him what his hobby was, and he said he doesn't really have a hobby, but sometimes he goes jogging. So I'm like, okay. Like, we don't have anything in common. Anyways, I tried to talk to him anyways. He would ask me some questions, but they were just like so substanceless. Yeah, I tried. Okay, I was like, I'm gonna be open-minded, but like there was just nothing there. And then Baba was kind of mostly busy like dishing up the food and like going to get stuff, which I feel like she was doing on purpose. And she was just basically like trying to facilitate this date between us, like, oh, Takeru-san, don't you think that like she's so pretty and like this and that, and isn't she working so hard, and isn't like blah blah blah, and isn't it amazing that she lives blah blah blah, like doing all this stuff about me. And I'm like, thank you, but you really don't have to go that hard. And she said, I want you to introduce you to, because I only hang out with attractive people in the neighborhood, and as Bunny is the most attractive woman and Takeru-san, you're the most attractive man, I thought it was only necessary for me to introduce you guys. Which is, I think is hilarious, because like our neighborhood is like maybe like 15 houses. And I love that she like tier ranked people by attractiveness. And like everyone around here is like at least 60. Like, probably Takeru was the youngest for the longest time until I came along. And like, I know he only lives in the house because his parents left it to him, so like, whatever. And then at the end, he asked to swap Line accounts. Like, I'm sure you guys already know, but Line is like the messaging app that people mostly use in Japan. And like, I don't swap my Line with random guys, but like, I couldn't say no. Or like at dinner with Baba in her house, I can't be like, oh, I don't have Line. Like, obviously, I think he saw me open my Line and look at it, so I was like, damn, okay. So I swapped lines with him, and then that was it. The Oden was good. The only annoying thing as well is like, cause like obviously these people don't speak English, right? So we're just speaking in Japanese. But like there would be times when I would say something, and like I would be the first to admit that my Japanese sometimes isn't great. Like even though I've been living here a long time and I use it for work, like I didn't study formally, so like I will make a lot of mistakes, and like sometimes with pronunciation, and I would say something like one word. And that's hyperfixate on that one word, and then like keep saying like, oh, your British accent really shone out in this word. I'm like, oh gosh, for fuck's sake. And then they like kind of like keep not mocking me, but saying it in my accent, and I'm like, okay, this is making me really uncomfortable. Like this is already like a lot. Like this situation is a lot in my non-native language, and also like I find it very hard in my non-native language to like refuse things, which I feel like also gets me in trouble. So like it's also like, I don't know, a lot of things. We ate up, and then we went outside, and then I was like, well, I have to leave because I have to work a little bit. I think I was gonna stream that night, and I left, and then Takeru-san came up right after me. He was like, oh, let's walk back together. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, you live like 12 steps away. Anyway, so we walked out together, and then he was like, see you around, and I was like, yeah. And then he went into his house, and I went in my house, and then he sent me like a stamp online, like a sticker, and I sent him a stamp, and then that was it. And like luckily it's been like over a week, and I haven't heard anything back from him, which is great. I think he could kind of pick up on the fact that one, we have nothing in common, and two, wasn't interested. Yes. I was a little disappointed in her, mostly because I think that she had this idea when we were talking about me coming over, and she didn't mention it. She also, like, we live like 2 minutes from each other. She could have come over and been like, oh, by the way, that dinner we're having, can I invite someone else? Because I would have said like, actually, I would rather it just be us. And then we didn't get to talk about things either because there was a random guy there. So like the whole thing was just like not what was advertised. And now the thing I think that annoys me most about this, and I know that she didn't, like, I'm not mad at her. She's a little old lady. I'm not gonna pull her up on this, honestly. But like, now there's a guy in my neighborhood who knows exactly where I live, and that knows I live there by myself. And now because I came after work, he now knows roughly what time I'm there, what time I'm not there. So it's just like a whole situation I didn't want to happen, because I'm very private about where I live, and I don't tell anyone like my hours, when I'm going to be there, when I'm not going to be there. So the whole thing just makes me really, really freaking anxious. And obviously if like you just come out of a relationship, you don't want to start immediately being introduced to like random people. The whole thing is kind of traumatic for me, not gonna lie. Also, like, you wouldn't look at this guy and be like, yeah, this is a nice guy that would be really good for my friend that's going through some things right now. Like, it just wasn't, just the whole plan was just so badly thought out. Again, she's a cute old lady. I think she just wanted to do some good. I haven't seen her since. I will go over there maybe next week and maybe bring over some, like, I don't know, some more souvenirs or like some chocolate or something, and just see how she's doing. And then probably I will see her around Christmas, and then once again at New Year's. I'm just gonna like not bring up the whole thing about Takeru. She also said there was one more neighbor she wanted me to introduce me to, and I'm like, dear God, it's gonna be like neighborhood speed dating. Everyone in this area is old and boring. I really do not wanna, I barely want to interact with my neighbors at all. I'm a very busy person. I don't want to have to deal with this. Thank you, but no thank you. So yeah, let me know what you think about this story. Like, I don't know if I should speak to, maybe I will speak to her about it in a really, really nice way and be like, I might tell her that I have a boyfriend now or something, because like, Jesus Christ, I really don't want this happening again. And I do really like spending time with her, and I don't want this to like make me not see her as much, Cause yeah, like it's been nice. Like again, like holidays, I hang out with my friends, or like if I'm seeing someone with them, but then it's nice to have that kind of like family kind of vibe. So sometimes it's nice to just go around her house and like do old people shit. Oh, I forgot to mention, she has this oldest ass cat. Its name's Tamatan, and I think the cat is like 12 years old, and it looks like scrunched up tissue paper. And it has dementia, so it just meows for food. Like every time I'm there, it will meow for food, and she'll just keep feeding it. So it's like, I don't know what's going on there. This is really cute because it's like they're both kind of like old ladies. It's really cute. So yeah, let me know what you think of my story. I hope I don't have any more stories like this soon, but I probably will. Anyways, thank you for watching. As always, please subscribe.